This is the view from my shed door here in the Adelaide Hills, and it's wet today, rainy, a bit windy, and a little bit of winter, but which is quite nice because we need the rain. But yesterday was a nice day and I managed to get some work done on the Healey, and I've painted the front fenders or wings or mudguards depending on what part of the world you come from, and I've fitted them onto the car. They have turned up very well. Of course they've got to be wet rubbed back yet and blocked up and made sure everything's nice and flat. But what I thought I'd do is prime these wings and the doors and the rear wings and fit them all to the car to check all the door gaps and everything before I put the final coat on, so that if I needed to adjust anything I could do it without quite as much trouble. However, today what I thought I'd do is faff around a bit with the Overdrive unit. Now, I mentioned in one of my other videos that the Overdrive worked, or appeared to work, when I operated the lever manually. So there's a couple of ways to set this up that I've read about, and I thought I'd have a go at doing that today. Now I can't, of course, until I drive the car. I won't know for sure, but as most of you will know, this is the operating solenoid here on the other side of the gearbox, and if I turn the ignition on, and if I flick the switch and move this into third gear, you should see that operate. Okay, see how that flips up? So there's a lever that runs through the box, and on the other side of the box there is this little sorry, let me get my foot. I have to press the accelerator pedal to deactivate. You heard the little click there from the relay. Here is the lever here on the other side of the box. Now what the book says to do to set them, there's a hole in the end of this lever and there's a hole sunk into the side of the housing here, and what you're supposed to do is line up these two holes and put a lever through there like that, and then go back to the other side, loosen off this, I really need a camera assistant, loosen off this nut here and alter this. You can see this is clamped onto this bar here that runs through the box. So we loosen that nut off, energize this, and then clamp that back up, and theoretically it should be in the right position. Now I've heard that sometimes doesn't work, and what you are really supposed to do, and what I'm going to have a go at doing, is to measure. That's interesting. I've gone out of focus there. What I'm going to have a go at doing is, sorry about that, is to measure the lift on the little pin. Now that's underneath this piece here. So what I'm going to do is take that out, take the little pin out and put a little rod in on top of the ball, and then use a dial gauge to measure the lift. And the lift is supposed to be between, they say, about 20 and 40 thou, or half a mil and a millimetre. So that's what I'm going to do, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to slacken off this bolt on the bottom here, and for some reason this actually does seem, this is a 7/16 AF, at least the one on the top is, as you can see that fits really well, but for some reason the one on the bottom is slightly different. Alright, so that now is quite loose on the shaft, you can see that play. So what I now am supposed to do is energize the solenoid like that, and then tighten this back up again. It wasn't all that tight actually in the first place, so it could be that I'm having a bit of trouble with this nut on the end here. Okay, right, seems to be alright. Now I've got to go around to the other side of the car to push the accelerator, but that's the first thing to do. So theoretically that's set right. I pinned the rod on the other side through into the housing so that it couldn't move. That's how the book says to do it. What I'm going to do now is set up a dial gauge on the other side and measure the lift. This is the little plunger that comes out. When you take the top off there, this is what you discover. This spring goes inside there and just this little plunger in the end. So I've removed that and I've fitted into this a little bolt. You could use a piece of rod, I guess. I've never done this before. It's quite tricky to get it to centralise because it's sitting on top of a ball bearing in there. I guess if you ground a little dimple in the end, it would help. I put a little nut on this bolt just to sort of stop it rocking around. So I've got the dial gauge set up on there. I'm now going to try and measure the lift. Now I have heard that this can launch ball bearings around the shed, so I'm just sort of hoping that doesn't happen. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, it looks as though I've got about 22 thou of lift, which is sort of not really in the area. I need a little bit more than that. In fact, it's a bit inconsistent. I'd say maybe 20 thou of lift. So we need to get a little bit more. Now, of course, I don't know how accurate this little bolt is here. Quite difficult, really, to work that out. But, yeah, that's in there, 0. Yeah, it's giving me about 25 thou, which is actually within the range that it's supposed to be. But I think I'd be happier if it was a bit more than that. In fact, that's saying 20 thou. Again, if I alter this slightly, it alters that, so I don't know how accurate my measurements are here. But I think I will try and get a little bit more lift than that out of it. So I'm slackened off the bolt again on this pinch bolt here, and I'll energise the solenoid. And then I will set this up to about, I suppose, 30. One of the problems is the accuracy of this. It's a bit of a Heath Robinson type of arrangement. I've drilled a little hole indentation in the top of the bolt so that this dial gauge can just locate itself, but I'm having trouble, I think, getting an accurate measurement. Anyway, we'll do that, and now we'll nip this back up. And we're going to try and do it without moving the dial gauge too much. Yeah, it's a difficult job. Set that on 30 again. Try and hold this level, and oops, just, you can see the difficulty in doing this. We're going to really just sort of hold the thing so that we don't. Doesn't matter if we lose a couple of thou, because I don't know that it's all that accurate anyway with the reading. But we'll give it a go. It's 28 thou. Okay, make sure that's not. Okay, so that's about where it is. All right. So turn that off and put that back to 0, and then see what happens when we flicks it. It's very difficult. That's giving me about 42, 42, 45. I'll persist with this for a minute and turn the camera off, and we'll see what we can come up with. Okay, well, I'm getting a sort of fairly consistent 30 thou lift on that, which I think is pretty good. So that's the idea. It's very fiddly to do, and it probably really is best to take a bit of time to make up a proper plunger to fit into there, because you've only got to have a very slight movement, of course, and you lose a couple of thou here or there. But I think that's probably a bit more accurate than putting the pin through the lever, and it's also, you can see how it's done anyway. I'll keep fiddling with this for a little while, but that's the theory behind it all.